Hello, is there anybody out there here to entertain you while you Black Friday shop? Or recover from your turkey hangover, if anybody's out there. Anybody out there? Guess I'll just talk to myself for a minute because there's a delay when it comes to live streams. I see one person waiting, but okay, 2 people watching. Hello, governor. If anybody's there. Is anybody Black Friday shopping and listening to this? Raise your hand. Not that I can see it, but like your virtual hand if you're listening. Oh, hello, governor. Yeah. Are you guys Black Friday shopping or just like, are you the smart ones that stayed home? Let me take a gander. I mean, if I do any shopping, it's online. But members of my household just went outside to brave it, and I don't know why. Like, it'll be entertaining to hear about it when they come back, when they see that it's all picked over. Can you guys still hear me? I'm making sure that I have like a good signal. Yeah. Yeah, no. It's like the Black Friday deals that you really want. You would have to literally camp out and wait overnight. And I'm just there's no material object I want unless it's a free car, house, or a house full of furniture. I mean, we do need new windows. I would camp out for stuff like that we desperately need. But there's no way I'm camping out for a $10 sweatshirt or like a TV. Mm-mm. Oh, good. I turned up my microphone a little bit and I have on my headset. My old Logitech headset. That's what I started doing narrations with too. Which, I don't know why anyone listened to me with that. It's all nasally. And I keep accidentally doing that into the microphone. It's totally not on purpose. Totally. Ew. Okay. So I was going to pick out a few things for you guys if you want to hear it really quickly. This one is Disturbing Stories from a Child Psychiatrist. Hello, Paul, Twisted Angel, Sally, and Mark. Hello. Went out last night for a tiny bit, had fun. Okay. What did you get? Tell me what you got at the store. Tell me what you absolutely had to get. Like, there's a few things that I would love to get, but I also don't want to go to jail for having to punch someone for being the way they are when they Black Friday shop. Because I would forget about all the things I went to the store for and get totally frustrated with all the horribly selfish people around me. Then I would just have to leave the store because I can't handle it. Vidith! Oh, I started watching your video the other day and I got distracted. I am so behind on watching everyone else's videos. I'm hoping I can take it just like a week and only listen to other people's videos. I have so many backlogged on my watch later tab. It's not even funny. But today I got distracted by Jenna Marbles. Like, I saw one thing and then it just became like a whole... And I know it's only... Right here, it's only 12:51. But for me, like, I like to start getting stuff done at like 7:30. I'm a person that likes to get up early and stay up late. I'm that annoying person. Ammo. I didn't even think about ammo. That's a good one. Sheets for my bed and ammo. Yeah, that's smart. I was looking on Amazon a little bit ago to see if they had any deals, but meh. I never go on. You know what is a good deal? If you can sneak into any stores that look kind of dead this evening. In the past, I've found some really awesome deals because there's some stuff that isn't just this morning for sale. It's like for the whole weekend. And so they have extra back stock of it. So like they'll have the crazy sale today and the people will die out and get tired. So tonight, if you go to a store, they will have restocked it and hardly anybody will be in there. And it'll be like, that's probably a pretty rare a scenario that I'm thinking of, but what's up, Zach? For those that you just popped in, I'm looking at various things. This giving you guys a choice on what you hear. Disturbing Stories from a Child Psychiatrist is the only one I have up so far. Or, let me see this one. Black Friday sounds so ominous. Oh, there's these crazy deals, and some of them aren't even like if you look at if you're shopping all the time instead of just right now, the prices aren't that different. And actually, if you wait probably like 2 weeks before Christmas, you'll find better deals than you would today. So, I don't know. Gonna have fun buying stuff online. I think that's the best way to go with it. Like, for me, anyway. My only concern is, will it come in time for Christmas? Last year, there was stuff that I ordered that I thought, no way it will get here in time. So I just told the people, well, I got you something, but it won't be here. And I got here in time anyway. So I was refreshingly surprised. That's a bonus. Is anybody tired from the eating yesterday? Like, I woke up and I admittedly had one drink yesterday, but it was like mid-afternoon. One. And I had one plate of food. But I feel like I ate and drank a ton. I don't know if there was like like a huge amount of salt in what I ate, but oh my gosh. You know what, Vidith? I want to be a social butterfly, and I am, but when I feel overwhelmed, I just want to go into a cave away from all humanity and live off grid. For real. Oh, I'm sorry, Zach. I got up around 2 a.m. for work, so yeah, I was tired. Mark. Ooh. Boy. I don't know what it is. Mostly a combination of like the sugar and the turkey, and my brother-in-law makes like he made like 2 different kinds of beef also. So we got to their house, and the whole outside, he's like cooking something outside, so it smelled like the Renaissance Festival when we got to their house. It was amazing. I'm trying to find another selection of stories for you guys to pick from here. Let me look back. Sorry, I'm still here. I think I'm still here. I wish there wasn't such a delay so I would know exactly what's happening here. I can see the little, like, in my Google Hangout screen, I can just check it really quick and see if it's picking up my microphone. So there's, like, little circles that radiate. Oh, hello, Stacy. The first one I've got is Disturbing Stories from a Child Psychiatrist so far. And trying to think of something that I haven't read to you before. I have all these things that I've found that I've never done anything with. Ew. 21 creepy accounts from people who were terrorized by a stranger. I don't think I've read that one. Whoops. Or, let me find one more and give you guys a choice. For anyone who has not listened to a live read, I get distracted often, so I'll try to stay focused for whatever we pick this time. Or maybe you guys just want to choose from those. Hello, Brian Morrow. So we've got on the table here 21 creepy accounts from a stranger and disturbing stories from a child psychologist. And I can pick a third one if you want, or we can just pick from those 2. If anybody wants to vote on that. Or I can just flip a coin. Child psychologist. So glad you had a day off today. Yeah, that's really nice. My husband didn't get today off, so he was kind of not happy about that, but I'm kind of hoping he gets home early today because then he can relax too, like most of the rest of the world. But there's so many people. Years ago, I was not years ago, but it was years ago actually. I was a department manager at Walmart. Oh. And yeah, you stay up all night and by the next day, like halfway through Black Friday, you feel like you're dying. And people are not like, I would say people weren't that rude, but it's just aggressive is probably a better word. Man, you choose strangers. I've got 2 votes for, Twisted Angel. Did I already say hi to you? So we've got 1, 2, 3 for the psychologist. Anybody else? We've got 3 votes for that. I think we're going to go with that one. Okay. This is actually from, which I don't do very often. This seems kind of long just for one of these, but here's a link to part 2. Okay, so let me see here. Rid of that. Strangers. All right. So this says, I'm just going to start with the psychiatrist stories. This says, for obvious reasons, I can't give too many specifics, and I've changed some minor details so patients can't be identified, but I need to get some of this off my chest. Medical school doesn't prepare you for the things you'll see in real life. Case 1. Miranda was a 5-year, 4-month-old female with no prior psychiatric history. Oh yeah, it's child psychiatrist. All right, it's a 5-year-old. I was working hospital consult at the time. She was admitted to the PEDS floor earlier in the week for seizure-like activity, and I was consulted by her primary team for evaluation of odd behavior. You never know what you'll be walking into with a vague consult like that, and I usually try to get more details. But the resident requesting the consult had a tone in his voice of restrained terror and urgency, so I decided to just see for myself. Miranda was small for her age, thin and waif-like, with pale milky white skin and long dark hair. When I entered the room, she was lying in bed watching cartoons, a blank expression on her face. Mother was in the corner in a chair, knees pulled up to her chest, a vacant stare on her face. She noticed me and jumped up and swiftly walked over. Please, don't make any loud sounds, doctor. She doesn't like that, she said in a small voice. I introduced myself and started to take a history. Miranda had reportedly been a normal, chatty little girl until 2 weeks prior, after she came home from visiting her father in another state. Her mother noticed right away she was acting differently. She was quiet, talked very little, and never smiled. When she called the father to ask if anything happened, he said nothing out of the norm. The night before the hospital admission, Mom said she walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water around 2 a.m., flipped on the light, and Miranda was just standing there, facing the refrigerator. Mom screamed because she wasn't expecting to see anyone there, and Miranda turned toward her sharply and said in a deep voice, "Be quiet." From a 5-year-old, can you imagine? She then went back to staring at the fridge. Mom was speechless. After a moment, she walked up to Miranda and gently guided her back to her bedroom. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. She thought maybe she was sleepwalking. The mother told me, I've never heard that voice come out of her before. It didn't sound like anything like my daughter. It was deep, almost like a grown man trying to sound like a little girl. The next night, Mom couldn't sleep. She kept hearing the voice echoing in her head. She decided to get up and check on to see if Miranda was in bed. Her door was open, and by the sliver of light from the hall, she could see a body on the floor. Alarmed, she flipped on the light and shrieked and saw Miranda on the floor, her back completely arced, her face upside down, contorted and frozen as if she were caught mid-scream, though she was silent. The voice then came again, deep and masculine. "Be quiet, you whore." Wow. Mom was tearful and shaking as she recounted the story. She had no idea where Miranda could have heard that language. Language? Oh, more. And she had never said anything like that before. She was usually polite and happy. Mom had gathered her up and taken her directly to the emergency room after this incident. They admitted her for long-term EEG monitoring to assess for seizures, but so far everything was normal. If you never experienced EEG monitoring, it's basically where they attached a bunch of electrodes to your head, monitor you for 24 hours on video feed to try to capture a seizure. Apparently, this process has not been going well. The resident showed me a few clips from the week. It usually happened around 2 or 3 a.m. Miranda would get up from bed, lie on the floor, and arc her back. The nurse would come in and try to get her back into bed. If anything loud happened, the child would scream in an unearthly deep voice, curse, call the nurse unpleasant names, including whore, beast, and cunt. It was unnerving to hear this adorable little child say such vile things, and in that voice. The testing showed she was not having a seizure during the episodes. Her vital signs were stable, and so far the lab work was normal. I spoke to Miranda for a while. She was soft-spoken and answered my questions in a flat, unemotional tone. Her eyes were vacant, like looking into the eyes of a veteran in the middle of a PTSD flashback. The eyes looked at you, but seemed to be seeing beyond you, through you, to somewhere else. I decided to try an experiment. As we talked slowly, I dialed up the volume on the TV. Once it started getting louder than normal speaking volume, Miranda stopped mid-sentence and stared me right in the eyes. I froze. I've seen a lot of shit in my line of work. I've seen people in violent, psychotic episodes. People smearing their feces on the wall, not faces, sorry. People cutting themselves, spitting, screaming, punching, you name it. But something about the way she looked at me scared the shit out of me. I turned the volume back down. She looked away and finished answering the question. I felt bad for the mom. It was like one day she had a sweet, normal daughter, and the next, it was just very unusual. I didn't know what was wrong or how to help. I recommended therapy. I never saw them again, but I think about her often. Edit. Just to clarify, abuse and/or trauma was high on the differential in this case, but there was nothing we could find while she was inpatient. CPS was involved, but I don't know if they ever found anything either. Hopefully, if something did happen, it came out in the course of therapy. I'm still friends with the psychologist I referred her to. I'm going to email her and see if I can get an update. So there is a part 2 to this also. So that was just like one case from this guy. Oh, God. Sebastian, how's it going? I cannot imagine waking up in the middle of the night and seeing your child like that. I might pee myself. I mean, I'm not scared, but there's something about like something happening to your kid and scary stuff that makes it like off the charts scary. If none of you have kids yet, the first time your kid's toy goes off in the middle of the night with no one playing with it, it's one of the scariest things like ever. Just letting you know. All right. This is part 2 of that. So it continues on and it says, for those of you who read the first post, I have an update on Miranda. Unfortunately, it's not very happy. She saw my therapist friend for a few months after she left the hospital, but they didn't make much progress. The abuse allegations were never substantiated, and her behavior continued to deteriorate, yelling obscenities at her mother, having non-epileptic seizures, until finally she actually stopped talking altogether. The last time she saw the therapist, their plan was to follow up at a Mayo Clinic for further evaluation. My friend never saw or heard from them after that. If we want to be optimistic, maybe the Mayo Clinic figured out how to help her, and that's why she never returned to therapy. I want to thank everyone who had positive responses to that post. Case number 2. I first saw Jason when he was 6 years old. He came from an amazing home. from what I could tell. Mom was a teacher, and his father was an engineer. They seemed kind and loving and had already raised two polite, well-adjusted kids. Then they had Jason. I see a lot of kids with aggression. Usually it is impulsive, in the moment, emotional dysregulation leading to violent acting out of some sort. Not so with Jason. He was, for the lack of a better term, calculating. Remember, he's talking about a 6-year-old. For example, this is the incident that led the parents to seek professional help. On a Thursday afternoon, his 3-year-old sister Amy grabbed one of the toys he was playing with and refused to give it back. Well, he didn't react at the time. He waited until that Saturday to exact revenge, and it was the first opportunity he was alone with his sister unsupervised. They were in the front yard playing when Mom ran inside to grab her phone. She was only gone for 30 seconds. But when she came back, Amy was unconscious in the driveway, bleeding from a wound in her head. Jason standing over her with a tricycle in his hands. He smashed her over the head with a tricycle. On the way to the emergency room, Mom frantically asked him why he had done this. He very calmly and matter-of-factly replied, "She took my Batman when we were at Nana's. Batman is mine." Jesus. Now I get parents in my office all day long who tell me how bad their kid is, how he was just born oppositional and destructive despite all their wonderful parenting. 99 times out of 100, that is weapon-grade bullshit. Without realizing it, of course, the parents or teachers are doing something to reinforce the kid's behavior, or we find out there has been abuse, or neglect, or an underlying medical issue, etc. There is almost always a reason a kid is quote-unquote bad. Jason was the first child I ever treated who I thought was actually born that way. He was born entirely without the capacity for empathy. You can be lacking empathy but not be psychotic. But anyway, that's just my side note. But that scares me because it means you can do absolutely everything right as a parent and still end up with a future serial killer for a child. You may think I'm being dramatic, but let me tell you a bit more about this child named Jason. When he was 5, he spent the weekend at his grandma's house. She was your typical sweet old lady, weighing in at about 95 pounds. She baked a batch of sugar-free cookies for the weekend with her grandson, and planned some wholesome activities like puzzles and coloring. The first day went pretty well, until Jason tasted one of the cookies she made after dinner. He spit it out onto the floor, looked Grandma intensely in the eyes, and said, "I'm going to cut your face off." Just going to let that sink in for a second for you guys. Come over here and pause. Hey, football master. We just finished this. Wow. Let's let that sink in for a minute. She was quite shaken by this, which who wouldn't be, and put him to bed early in the guest room. That night at 3:30 a.m., Grandma suddenly awoke to the sound of breathing close to her ear. When she opened her eyes, Jason was kneeling beside her bed, watching her sleep, a blank expression on his face. Startled and disoriented, she tried to get up quickly and tumbled onto the floor. She realized she couldn't stand up, so she called out to Jason to grab the phone. She looked up helplessly as he peered down at her from atop the bed, and didn't go for help, even as she started to cry and beg. After a few minutes of watching her, he stood up and walked out of the room, closing the door behind him. Grandma lay there in pain for the rest of the night and half of the following day. Finally, Jason's mom came by the house to check on him around noon. She walked in to find Jason sitting in front of the TV with a bowl of cereal. She could hear whimpering coming from the bedroom. Grandma was taken to the ER with a broken hip. When asked why he didn't get the phone for Grandma, he answered, "I don't like her. Her cookies taste like sand." Jason was not invited back for another sleepover. Now, is it just me, or would you not seek professional help for your child right then? That seems off the charts crazy, and I bet that wasn't the first thing that he did that was weird. But that's just my observation. Anyway, there are more examples of disturbing things Jason did, but they all involved animals, and to be honest, I can't stomach thinking about it, let alone retelling it. Suffice it to say, several lizards, numerous insects, one hamster, and one cat met a very unpleasant demise at the hands of Jason. And that's just the ones we know about. He has been in intensive therapy for the past 5 years, but it has not seemed to make a difference. If anything, I'm afraid it may be making him even more dangerous. He's very intelligent, and he's learning to feign the normal human reactions and emotions he is supposed to have. He is getting better at hiding the parts of himself that make other people uneasy. That's scarier to me. He's becoming a very charming little sociopath. Even his mother thinks he's getting better and outgrowing his old habits. But he still confides in me that deep down he feels nothing. Watching another human or animal suffer is fascinating to him, and it's the only thing that gives him a small thrill while the rest of life is utterly numb and boring. He tells me he has stopped killing animals, but I don't believe it for a second. I try to have hope for all my patients, but deep down I truly think he will move on to killing humans someday, and absolutely no one will see it coming. I guess except me. Oh my gosh. Ugh. Yeah. Stacy says, my daughter used to talk to someone in her room, but no one. She has grown out of it. Yeah, they say that most little kids do see things that we can't, just like animals, because they're not jaded by what people, because animals they don't outgrow it. But they say kids do, and I think that's because people start telling them what is possible and what's impossible. And maybe if people never introduced the thought of what's impossible, then can you imagine how people would think? That would be amazing. She saw an old lady. I'm just on pause here, trying to see. There was only 2 stories to that. I mean, they were deeply disturbing, but that's crazy. This guy's got more stuff, though. He's got a bunch. This is from Reddit. I found it through Pinterest, but it's on Reddit. He's only got that story there. So I'm just going to close that off. I normally don't use anything from Reddit. I'm not a fan, and plus sometimes I know that a lot of people have had problems from Reddit. Even people, I know that Darkness Prevails has his own Reddit, and Reddit has like chosen a group of narrators that they like targeted and said that they were stealing stories. So I've like only in the beginning I found like free to use stories. There's a whole category of free to use stories, and I use some of those. And occasionally, if I find a good one, and I hardly ever go there to look, then I'll use it. But like I found one that's I think I did that in January. It's called a body in the woods. Man, that story was good, but it involved a lot of editing because it's not, they're just posting a story. They're not like a first-hand account. They're not posting it as, a book or a prize-winning piece of any kind of writing. They're just posting a first-hand account, so it does involve quite a bit of editing sometimes. What's up, Immunity Zero? Everybody still hear me okay? I just saw this thing like doing something weird. So hard. Twisted Angel says it's so hard for me to wrap my mind around the idea of children behaving that way. It's so scary. Yes, it is. But the scarier thing is when parents ignore it and then they turn into the things that I usually do my Saturday stories about. Yeah, it's pretty scary. Okay, so maybe we'll do I had found another thing, so I'm probably going to have to do that now. It was the stranger one, right? Did we read the attorney stories last time? Does anybody remember if we read the attorney stories? Because I had queued that up and I was going to do that. But I don't remember if we read that for here. If someone can let me know so I don't read it for you guys. Seems like I was going to, and then I just never did. It was like in my... It was one of my selections a few live streams ago. I think you were here for that one too, Mark. I had 3 of them queued up, and attorneys was one of them. I think I even started saving this to do a story about this, and then I just never did it. Ew. 25 attorneys talk about the most sickening criminals they were forced to defend. So if anybody besides Mark can let me know if I read that to you or not, because I did read this, but I don't know if I read it to you guys or just to myself. I think we'll know right away. I think this was pretty bad, and I had started saving it. These are really, really bad, so I'm just going to let you know. It's going to trigger. It's a trigger warning. Trigger. So if people can't handle bad stuff, you're not going to want to listen to this one. So fair warning. I'm going to start reading it. Okay. The very first one, it starts right out of the gate bad. So the number 1, he raped his stepdaughter and recorded it. The worst person I had to defend was a gentleman, and I use that term loosely, who spent years raping his stepdaughter. He videotaped it, so he had to watch it at trial. And he insisted on going to trial because he wanted to see the video again. Do you guys still want me to keep reading this? I'm going to pause for a second and make sure that you actually want me to read this, because it's pretty bad. Here's pause music. Okay. Oh, hello, Adam. Hello. All right, number 2. He pointed an AR-15 at a police officer. So, had a guy stand out of a sunroof and point an AR-15 at an undercover cop. Guy was on probation when this happened. Co-worker represented a guy that beat and burned a kitten and recorded it. She had to watch the video, and she came to my office crying afterward. Oh my gosh. That right there is why I couldn't, if I were an attorney, which I toyed around with that idea for a little while, but I just feel like at some point in your career as a lawyer, you would be forced to defend people like this, and there's no way I could do it. There's no way I could do it. I would be the poorest lawyer that existed. Well, you know, the funny thing is there are attorneys just like politicians that start out with good intentions, and there's probably very few that still have them out there. Yeah. There's no horror worse than that of real life. So true. Of course, I do love myself a good creepypasta immunity, tell you that. Yeah, the first one. Okay, on to number 3. He beat his partner to death with his fists. A lawyer who did criminal work experience whilst training. I was part of the legal team that defended a man who killed his partner by beating her to death with his fists in their living room. We argued diminished responsibility, i.e., he was the only guilty of manslaughter, not murder, as at the time of the assault he lacked the relevant mental capacity. Jury found against him, and he was sent down for 25 years. Last thing he said to me was that he hopes he gets to solitary with his guitar and that he would be better than Eric Clapton by the time he ever got out. Edit, this is a UK case, and the client had been in and out of prison all his life, so I assumed that he would know if he was allowed his guitar whilst inside. I took his word for it, at least. The jury didn't believe that his previous and ongoing psychological problems, well evidenced by expert witnesses, had an effort on his mental state to such an extent that he lacked mental capacity to commit murder. They believed that he committed the murder because he wanted to either kill or cause serious physical harm to his partner at the time. This is the mens rea for murder in the UK. No, I don't feel bad about assisting in this case. He was innocent until proven guilty, and in the UK we have equality of arms in criminal cases, i.e. his legal team has the same resources as the prosecutions. Whoa. Quite often I don't think that people that commit murder are in their right state. Like, even if your mental state is, I must cause harm to this other person, are we deeming that as a sane thought? I think there's a lot of people that are in prison that obviously, even if they did harm someone else, do need deep mental. Because what's the point of putting them in there if we're not going to rehabilitate them so they can rejoin society? We're just going to house person after person after person after person. But of course, we've let them in and out several times so they can get better at committing crimes. And therefore, we can have like an entire nation of prisons. I don't understand the point of that. Oh, Harry, le headshot. Oh my God. Most definitely. Oh shit. Harry says, I want to play guitar in solitary confinement. Friend, I don't think you know how solitary works. Damn straight. Yeah, in the US, you would never get to do that. No way. They would never let you do that. All right. We are on to number 4, and I'm going to warn you, trigger, you can just pause your thing there or mute it, and I'll give you a little star in the chat when it's over. Here it goes. Number 4 is he got his own granddaughter pregnant. Long story short, guy was accused of molesting his granddaughter, and she was pregnant from it. I, along with the state, became confused on the DNA of the grandchild's child. We learned that his grandchild was the product of rape on his own daughter, so he was the grandfather/father of the person he raped. So he was also the great-grandfather/father of his granddaughter's child. That might be the most messed up thing I've ever heard. Oh my gosh. That means that it's a generational mess up. Oh. Yeah. Actually, Harry, my husband and I watched that one day. Oh, I don't know if he watched it with me, but it was so awful. Oh my gosh. If anybody wants to see something messed up, you watch the Joseph Fritz on Netflix. There's a documentary about it, and it's just it's messed up. Okay, moving on. Number 5 isn't as bad. I don't think anything could be as bad as that one. Number 5, he set out to carjack someone and ended up murdering them. Murder started out as a gang initiation carjacking turned murder when the juvenile initiated that was getting initiated panicked. The juvenile committed suicide when he was in juvie. The client was torn up as well and wanted to plead guilty. Did a psych evaluation and did a full pre-trial motions practice that lasted a year before we scheduled the plea. He wrote a very heartfelt apology to the girl's dad, and I gave it to him after the plea. This is a little confusing the way it's written, if you guys can follow it. Still filed a habeas against me 2 years later, but that was sort of expected. Ooh, nope, and this goes right into another one. There's several. Okay, so this lawyer talks about several cases he had. Child molestation and incest. He was raping his daughter for 5 years. After a vague outcry, police came to the house and recovered semen-covered tissue from the girl's bedroom in the trash can. Almost got that evidence suppressed because the search was without a warrant, but permission from his wife. He had previously refused consent but was led away to the station for questioning. Story differs as to whether he did it voluntarily or was covered or even just flat out arrested. And they re-asked for consent from the wife, with no husband or to contradict her. This one went almost a year as well, with a metric ton of motions, and in the end, what the police got from the search corroborated the witness testimony to the T, and he eventually decided to a plea. Here's another one. This is all still number 5. It's like this lawyer's multiple cases. But that one affected me the most. The one that affected me the most was a little kid who literally grew into a man while locked up for 2 cases. 2 counts of aggravated assault and another case of armed robbery. He stayed in jail almost 3 years while the cases worked themselves out. In the aggravated assault case, he was alleged to have shot 2 lifelong gangbangers due to some dispute. He was a skinny kid, maybe 150 soaking wet, and these gangbangers were all over 6 feet and heavily built, with a long rap sheet. Cross-examination on the records went fucking textbook. They had around 5 convictions each, and I asked, if you're convicted of something for 5 times, why are you out in public? Anyway, and I asked about the first 3 and then let them hang themselves by saying how they're different now and that's all old news and that they don't do that no more. Right. Then you hit them with the subsequent convictions. You wouldn't think that would work, but they knew their own record and wouldn't fall for their trick. But they do every single time. Not guilty, but still locked up because of the armed robbery. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to skip to the next one because it goes on, and I'm confused by that. Number 6 is he shot a rival gang member in the face. I defended a guy that walked up to a rival gang member and shot him in the face. Then he and his buddies fled and got involved in a high-speed chase, and he was shooting out the window at the chasing cops. I had to interview him alone at the downtown Modesto County Jail, and it was a total shithole. It was the first murderer I defended, and I was scared. He turned out to be very polite. Wow. I'll go back to the chat and check on you. Hello, black-eyed kid. Yeah. I can do deep thoughts too. Sometimes parents hit their kid. Unless they say, hit me, daddy, and I feel a stick of frozen bitter. Could be a vicious murder. Butter. When I was a little kid, the first scary story I read, because I watch scary movies all the time, but I didn't read a lot of scary stories. And I don't think I read more scary stories until later. Not really scary. I found this one on accident. I don't remember how I found it, but it was a case of where this lady wanted to murder her husband, so she had this enormous, like, frozen turkey leg and hit him over the head with it until he was dead. And then she called the police, and when the police came, she had dinner in the oven, and it was turkey legs. So they couldn't find the murder weapon, and there was no evidence that she had done it. I think I was like 8 or 9 when I read that. All right. Back to the thing. Number 7, he drowned an underage girl. The gang murderers are pretty routine at this point. As a young lady, it's the ones who aren't killing in the name of territory, street cred, etc. that get to me. I was really affected by a particularly brutal, cold, calculated, sick 30-something man accused of murder. He was eerily calm and cocky about his encounter with an underage girl he met and chatted up for about 20 minutes. That resulted, ultimately, in her drowning with suspicious surrounding circumstances. He was obviously disturbed, and it was very unsettling just being near him. Images of him smiling for the news cameras in the courtroom will weirdly pop into my head on a somewhat random basis and still gives me the heebie-jeebies. The act he put on when he insisted upon being put on the stand and trial ruined him. He would have walked but for his ridiculous testimony. Within seconds, the jury, who had been paying close attention previously, looked horrified as he told these stories and stopped taking notes. Their minds were made up as soon as he opened his creepy mouth. He was quickly convicted. We did a really stellar job in this case, but he dug his own grave. Justice was served. Oh my gosh. I never understand that, like... She then fed it to the police. Dun dun dun. While the inspector was eating it, he said, I reckon the weapon's right under our noses. Ha, witty. See, now that would be a hilarious dark comedy. Does anybody have any good dark comedy movies or any dark comedy period to recommend? I'll come back to that and look in the chat. We are moving on to number 8. Number 8 is he shot a dog due to road rage. He's a narco in Colombia, extradited to the U.S. Killed more people than he could count. Actually lost track. A guy who made him... Okay, this is several different people. Another guy who made video tapes of himself having sex with his own 6-year-old daughter. Oh my God. And then a guy who killed another person in a road rage incident and then shot his dog. Strayed bullets across the windshield to scare the guy's wife and then went home and went to bed. So that lawyer said I could go on for days. Number 9, he decapitated his grandmother. I worked on a case in which the defendant was accused of decapitating his grandma with a bread knife. Gruesome and scary. How? Like, I don't really want to know how, but how? Oh, it said a bread knife, didn't it? Not a butter knife. I immediately thought butter knife. A bread knife is sharper than a butter knife, dummy. Okay. Back when I was a younger child, children would disappear in my home. They would sometimes find the bodies in the river. Where was that at, Logan? Reanimator? I might have seen that, Brian, but I'm going to write that down. The Reanimator. I might have that in my queue. That sounds really familiar. Dark comedy. I'm a big fan of dark comedies. I'm debating on what tomorrow's story should be. I have 2 different serial killers, but I don't even have them written down. And I can't decide. So if anybody has any suggestions, that's great. Otherwise, I'll just randomly pick someone. Detective tells his wife something. Wife kills him with leg of lamb. She goes to the shop as an alibi. She calls the police. She feeds the police evidence. Is that a super old story, Harry? I was like... Just pausing for a second. I'm going to go back to the stories. Okay. Oh God, this one's bad too. So I'm going to warn anybody that's listening. All of these are going to be triggers because that one story. It didn't start out that way with the lawyer telling his different cases, but sometimes these pop up and I don't know. So you're warned. This is a trigger one. Number 10 is he was a serial child molester. Law clerk at a criminal defense firm. We take cases on appeal after the client has already pled guilty or been found guilty at trial. One of our clients is a convicted serial child molester. Like, why would you be out of jail? Why are these people ever out of jail? My husband has a degree in criminal justice, and one of his professors explained it like this. You cannot make someone else be something they're not. And when someone is in that particular way, it's like telling a rock you have to be a piece of paper now. If that makes sense to anybody. You cannot change that in someone. It is just what they are. And letting them out to recommit crimes should never be happening. Moving on. Whew. All right. Some of the offenses occurred when he was a juvenile himself, 17 and under. Still, he should have not been free. Under 17 in my state. So there's people that commit murder or other things and they're tried as an adult. So if something is something that's a repeated behavior in someone and it's something that causes traumatic, irreparable damage to innocent people, that should be tried as an adult because there's something seriously wrong going on with the person committing the crimes. Obviously. Anyway, I was tasked with, not me personally, obviously, I was tasked with going through the paperwork we received and figuring out which victims he molested when he was an adult and which he molested when he was a juvenile to calculate his correct punishment range. Problem is, the official court documents all the names of the victims with pseudonyms like John Doe, etc., while the police reports use their actual name. There is no index in the file to tell me which victim is which. And it's cheaper for my bosses to pay me to figure that out then force the government to turn over a list. So I had to match the child victims to their code names based on their biographical details and the counts of the abuse. Like, attention, boss. Child A is black, age 9, and was touched around the genitals and anus by the defendant's fingers. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to read the rest of that because it's 3 different, like, that's how this person had to break this down. And basically they end it by saying, I'm so glad that I will be moving into prosecution in a month or so. Wow. These are bad. Right. Okay, so adult action, adult responsibility. Let's say the person doing it is 10. Like, they've already done it several times. They might go in the juvie and come back out. They're going to do it again. What do you do then? Mental institution? Because I don't know that there's any, and then they're still going to get out when they're 18. I mean, you can't put a 10-year-old in prison. So, and they should be tried, that should be taken as seriously as if they were an adult. But there's so many things that are mental illnesses that should be treated as mental illness and not crime. Because there's so many people that are in jail that are clearly mentally ill because there's no way that that's a cognitive, rational thought or thoughts that they're continually having. Who gets rehabilitation? Juvie? None of these people that are put in any institutions get the proper rehabilitation that they need. Yeah, they know that they'll do it again. As I was saying, my husband has a criminal justice degree, and one of the professors was talking about trying to rehabilitate a child molester is like trying to tell a cat, you're a dog now, be a dog, bark like a dog. You can't, you might be able to suppress it. You might be able to minimize it, but you're not going to change what is. You are in a secure, you've seen it. I guarantee if you follow that person in their adult life, they did do it again. Yeah, usually people change for the worse. The problem is that person probably did what they did because someone else did that to them, and so on and so on and so on, because they thought they were rehabilitated, or no one ever prosecuted the person that did that to the child, and then it's just it creates a long chain. I think that people be re-released into society, number one, and number two, if you're going to put someone away for life or long periods of time, they need to be contributing to society in some way. I'm not sure what that way is. I don't run a prison, and I'm not part of the legal system. But as a mother and a person in society that hears people talk about taxes this and taxes that, when billions of dollars are spent on prisons alone, doesn't make a lot of sense. Right. But we're just creating cinder blocks full of people. No one's figuring out how to break the chains. No one's figuring out how to stop it. And the funny thing is there's people in there that didn't commit anything close to what the other people did, and they're in the same building. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to go back to the stories now because, oh no, these are bad. I'm just trigger warning you again. Number 11 is he sexually abused an animal. Oh my God. Child assault, sexual assaults are the worst. That aside, I once defended a very nice 80-ish-year-old man who had been married for 50 years, several kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids. He'd been charged with sexual acts with a horse. Turns out most of the community knew he'd been sexually interacting with livestock for many years, and they usually looked the other way, but I guess he went too far with the horse. He pled guilty to felony, but of course got no jail time. Like, what? I mean, ugh, gross. Just what? Ugh. Again, number 12's a trigger warning, so whew, man, I can't believe you guys wanted to hear these. I tried to warn you guys these were bad, but they're bad. They're so bad. Number 12, trigger, 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 trigger. A child sodomized another child. I once represented an 11-year-old charged with forcible sodomy, and I'm just reading it as it's written here. Forcible sodomy against another 11-year-old. You will often see kids charged with molesting other kids, but it's rare to get a juvenile defendant that young. Sometimes the parents are overreacting to two kids playing doctor. Sometimes it's evidence that the kids themselves have been molested by an adult. Juvenile cases get complicated. Juvenile sex cases get absurdly complicated. Between draconian laws that aren't really designed for juveniles, competency issues, how do you get a knowing, intelligent, and voluntary plea from a child, and moronic parents, it can get pretty overwhelming. Just, wow. These are bad. I try to warn you guys. They're bad. Oh, Jesus. You guys still want to keep going? Because I don't know if there's... I mean, I can scan through and see if there's more. Oh, there's a worse one after this one. Just going to double check the chat here. Make sure you guys want to... Okay. Have them mind cool. Actually, they should be building solar panels. Because you know that wind and the sun are free sources of energy. Totally free. So is water, if it's properly utilized. But that's another discussion for another time. Just checking the chat for... Okay. Here we go. Number 13. He threatened to kill his former attorney. Immigration law often intersects with criminal defense law, since having criminal convictions will get you banned from or kicked out of many countries. In my first year of practicing, I'm convicted of molesting his young daughters to be allowed into my country in order to help care for his disabled young step-granddaughter. Reading the details of what he did to his own daughters, which were around the ages of 6 to 8, was horrifying. The now adult daughters wrote letters saying they'd forgiven him and they had no problems trusting him around their own children. Oh, I'll save all my thoughts on that and keep reading this. I just couldn't stop thinking that this guy was possibly going to be left alone with a little girl who couldn't move or talk, let alone defend herself from a convicted pedophile. Not that children should be expected to be able to defend themselves from a grown man. Ugh. Another one was a weird guy who had a felony conviction for threatening and planning to kill his previous attorney. He needed to clear up this issue because of a job opportunity in my country. He sent me this bizarre manifesto about the government's conspiracies. Not so bizarre, if you think about it. To poison people via tap water, and how it was all the fault of the homosexual girly men in powerful positions. I was scared I'd be his next target because he clearly had severe, untreated mental health issues, and all it would take was one lazy or sloppy border officer to let him slip through. Holy moly. Ugh. Or it should be punched in the gut for every drop of blood. Ugh. I just don't think Harry, I don't think they get that mindset on their own. I think that, unlike that, the child psychologist stories like we were listening to before, I think it's very rare that someone's born with a thought of committing those acts to someone on their own. There's something that is introduced into their train of thought that's like makes thinking that way and again acting that way on a different level completely okay in their brain. And I wish there was a team of people or a large portion of our government that try to actually solve problems instead of tweeting about bullshit that doesn't matter. But whatever. Moving on. This one's really bad, so trigger. Number 14. There was a Skype group that fucked children. I had to defend an individual who was part of a massive infant raping group. This group would video chat via Skype about their plans and how much they loved to do this to children. So anyway, I had to take instructions and be professional whilst my client told me all the horrific details of what he did. How, why, when, etc. I have dealt with all sorts of outrageous and horrible offenses, yet this one always sticks out for me. Why would that even go to court? Like, why are some things that are so obviously disgusting and awful even allowed to go to court? Like, if someone pleads guilty, why are you going to just jail? Right now, jail. How much evidence do you need? I made a comment yesterday, and Jamie Deluxe, if you haven't watched him, he's doing really good research on all the sexual cases coming through, and he's got like research he's doing. He's really good at it. And I made a comment, either he or someone else did one on Bill Cosby, and I was saying, I said something about that, and someone commented, replied to my comment and said, "Oh, the one about Cosby hasn't been proven." And I was like, well, there's 50 women that have come forward who have firsthand accounts of sexual assault by him. So how many does it take? How many does it take before you believe that this person has done it? I would think it would take one person that's had this experience with it that should say you shouldn't be in society. If you think that it's okay to drug someone and do something to them while they're sleeping, why are you amongst people in society? How does that make you feel that someone with money and power gets to do whatever the fuck they want? How many people does it take before you believe these people that are being violated? God. Yeah. All right, moving on to, yeah, these are bad. I think that might be oh no. There's another one. Oh my God. These are all bad, so just that last one that I read might be the worst. That's got to be the worst one. Just, number 15 is, again, trigger. A preacher raped boys from his youth group. Let's see, the most serious criminal, this is the lawyer's writing. Attempted first-degree murder. Worst overall. Preacher accused of raping boys in his church youth group. Like, could there be a worse thing? You go to church. They're safe here. I trust you. But again, we've heard this for years. Years. Creepy dude in a white van or a smiling face that you trust. Trust your gut. Trust your gut and put your kid's safety above feeling humiliated or feeling like the jerk that said no to someone who's asking if your kids can go get ice cream. It's okay to be like, no, or go with them or something. I don't know. It's so disturbing that you just can't trust people. You know what's funny is, Harry, in 2005, there was a woman who went to court and settled because he was found guilty before all these other women came forward. Because when she came forward, there was 3 other women, and this was in 2005. And now this massive group. I feel like this is like the beginning of cleaning house, but it feels empowering for people who felt like they did something wrong because other people treated them like that for so long that you're going to hear about it for a while because there's so many. And I don't think it's just men. I'm pretty sure there's women that have done this too, taken their position of power and brutally abused it in the most horrible ways. And people don't want to be suppressed like that anymore. And it's not just in Hollywood. I think there's lots of workplaces where people have felt helpless, where they have a job. People always say, oh, you can get another job. Really? Really? If you're in a place where there's like bountiful jobs, please let me know so I can move there, because personally, I know that when you're in a place of like paying your rent and putting up with the butt nose that you work for, or quitting, feeling empowered, and then also being homeless, it's like another way of victim blaming people say get another job. No. Get that person out of that. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen on top of everything else. But hey, Shanna. You know it's like who can you trust? I don't know. All right, let's move on. Number 16, again, trigger. Shanna and anyone else who's new here, this is 25 attorneys talk about the most sickening criminals they were ever forced to defend. And we're on number 16 right now. This one is he kidnapped, raped, and tortured his own girlfriend. This guy kidnapped, raped, tortured, and killed his then girlfriend while his other girlfriend helped. He recorded the whole thing on video. He also was recorded talking with the girlfriend who helped him about moving the thing in the backyard, which during his defense he said they were talking about a safe that was buried. He was acquitted on all counts, and a couple years after the trial he moved to a new house. The people who bought his house took up some carpeting and found an air conditioning vent. Inside the vent were the videos of him killing his victim, but he can't be retried due to the double jeopardy. I think they might have gotten him for perjury since he obviously lied during his first trial, but that's it. Wow. What? That's crazy. Isn't it crazy how randomly you find out things like this? So many of these things I've never heard about in the news. Jesus. Number 17. He strangled a hooker to death. What? A friend of mine's dad is a defense attorney. He once had a client who strangled a hooker to death because she laughed at him because he couldn't get a boner after shooting heroin directly into his dick. Her dad's half-assed defense was, well, Your Honor, in his defense, he was really high from heroin, so he wasn't thinking very clearly. The guy was quickly sentenced to many years in prison. Yeah, I would think so. Your only defense is because you were too high on heroin? Wow. Oh, wow. Damn. Number 18. He murdered his partner's young son. Murder of his partner's 18-month-old son. I had an 18-month-old at the time. I myself had an 18-month-old at the time. The trial never went ahead, though, as the defendant passed away not long after his arrest. Oh. Just number 19, again. This is another trigger. He anally raped an elderly woman. This was probably the nastiest case I remember in all my time at the PD's office. Wasn't my client, but a friend of mine's in the office. Guy's name was Ramon. They called him Ramon the Bone. Ugh, why would you give him a catchy nickname? Anyway, he violently raped a 70-plus-year-old woman. He beat the shit out of her, put his finger in her ass, then wiped it on her face, anally raped her, and then made her perform oral sex. Ugh, really fucked up stuff. Guy was a total asshole. He went all the way to trial. Jury selection was fun. He was found guilty. Can't remember what his sentence was, but it was many years. Oh my god. Oh. I have to go back to the chat to make sure people aren't throwing up. I do illegal drugs. Yeah. Like, I was drunk at the time. That's what I noticed, like, a lot of these, like, the cases that are coming up now. I was drunk at the time, or, I mean, when I was younger, I went through my party years. Like most people do, so you don't do it when you're, like, older, right? So, I remember being at this one party, and we did, like, there was beers lined up, and then you took a shot, lit it on fire, dropped it in the beer, and slam it. I don't remember what that's called, but something about lighting the alcohol on fire and then drinking it is supposed to enhance it. That's the only time I've ever blacked out. I remember in the laughing and being embarrassed about things that I do the next day. Had done. I don't do that stuff anymore. The next day, remembering it. But there's a little period of time where I do not remember saying something to someone at this party doing that. But everything else, like if I said or did anything stupid, I was still aware of what I was doing. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. He stuck his finger in her ass and then wiped it on her face is what I said. I probably was like trying to be quieter, but oh my god. Oh, all right. Anyway, Number 20. He killed a clerk inside of the firm's office. In St. Paul, someone had to defend a guy who was charged with assaulting a police officer. Not that bad, right? Well, the guy didn't like how his case was being handled. So, went to the firm's office and shot and killed one of their clerks. He thought it was his lawyer, apparently. So, yeah, that's probably one of the worst people you would have to defend. Oh, I wouldn't defend him anymore. Oh, boy. Number 21 is bad. I don't know if it's exactly a trigger, but it's bad. It's bad. 21. He beat his own child with a board. A guy who beat his 16-year-old daughter with a board and insisted on invoking his Christian values as a defense. Not the worst crime by any measure, but seriously, fuck off, dude. Like, that's the lawyers writing that. The next one is bad. It's trigger warning for the next one. Twisted Angel says, people always ask me why I'm a fan of horror movies, and I always respond with, I'm looking for something that scares me more than real life. Yeah, I know. I think psychological horror can scare me. When it gets inside of your head and you're thinking about it hours or days or weeks or months afterwards, that's the best to me. Like somebody who's as a talented person that can really do that. I think a lot of our fellow creepypasta writers are really underrated in their talent for doing that. So, kudos. Okay, number 22 is a trigger warning. Just letting you know. It's bad. Number 22, he raped his daughters for years. Oh, God. My client raped his daughters over a period of years. It went to a full jury trial. Cross-examining the children was very unpleasant. My client was convicted. The evidence was overwhelming. I made clear before the trial that he was going down, but the defendant would not take a plea. The judge, in an unrecorded discussion held while the jury was out, told the prosecutor and me to do our utmost to make sure there were no appealable issues since the defendant was a monster. I hated every minute of that trial, but I did my utmost to represent my client. See, now that's where I'd be like, want him to go down. The Girl Next Door. Watch a movie called The Girl Next Door. I'm writing it down, Immunity. What is that one about? I wonder if I have seen it. I watched one with what's her name? Johnny Depp was married to her, and it was called Everybody Loves Something. And she ended up being the killer, and I wish I could find it now. E. Fulton. Hey, Cameron, everyone can hear you doing that. I can't even. Yeah, I don't know if I can handle either one, Harry. Okay, number 23, moving along. He was convicted of sexual assault. So trigger. I think that's the last rape sex case. Hold on. Let me just make sure. Yeah, this is the last rape sex case thingy. So number 23, trigger. He was convicted of sexual assault. Public defender here. Matter of public record. Still owe a duty of confidentiality, all that jazz. A client of our office was convicted of assault, defined as non-consensual physical contact. Consensual physical contact with sexual motivation. The alleged victim being the 6-year-old niece of the defendant, making it also a crime of domestic violence. Oh my God. It's by far the darkest case I've been assigned. I can say without reservation that he got a fair shake. My God. It's like, I almost welcome the other ones. Number 24. He brought a bag of cocaine to his drug test. This title is funny. I had a brilliant gentleman on probation for narcotics. Why weren't more of these stories like this? I would love to read these. I had a brilliant gentleman on probation for narcotics trafficking and was not permitted to own/use a cell phone. He went in for a drug test with his probation officer, and his cell phone rang in his pocket. The PO went to take the phone from his pocket and also pulled out a large baggie of cocaine that he brought to his drug test. I don't know what people are thinking, but that one's just... Are you on drugs? No. Twitch. Scratch head. Number 25. An elderly man accidentally killed a young girl. Defended an old guy driver who hit and killed a mentally challenged girl who had run across 6 lanes of traffic against the signal. The guy did nothing wrong. The worst part about the situation was that we were being paid by the dead girl's family's insurance company, who the family was suing for benefits. Oh. Oh, no. Well, we need to hear about something funny to restore our faith in humanity. Oh my gosh. My mother-in-law was telling the story. So we were coming home from one of my stepson's football games. I think it was like a month and a half ago. And that was just like when it was around like 7 or 8, it would start to get really dark early. And now it's like 4. When it's 4 p.m. here, now it's dark. So that's winter in Michigan for you. But anyway, yeah, accidentally. Well, no. So she's driving home. She lives the opposite direction we do from this city that we were in. And we had to go 20 minutes south, and she had to go like 20 minutes northeast. But the way she went wasn't a way she would normally take. And when she was taking, and some of the roads she went down were like through a bad neighborhood. But it was evening, and there wasn't really anybody on the road. There was no other cars on the road when this happened to her. So she said she's driving along, totally dark outside, no cars, no people. She blinks, looks at the road, and there's a woman in the road in a black trench coat, slowly walking, and she slammed on her brakes, and she slammed on them so hard that she said she was standing on her brake. And this lady just like, she's totally stopped on the road. This lady just like didn't even realize she almost got made into a pancake in the road. Turns and slowly looks at her like she had no idea what was actually happening. Like, so my mother-in-law pulls over and calls my husband's phone while we're like a block away from home. And she's like hysterically scream crying into the phone. So we're thinking, what is going on? We thought she got in an accident. We thought she hit a deer, because that's pretty common in these parts this time of year. Deers come out of nowhere, and you have no warning. You're just going to hit that deer. So we had no idea. And come to find out, this was what had upset her. So when she was leaving Thanksgiving last night, we were making jokes about it, because she didn't want to drive anywhere anymore at night. She was scared. She was scared to be in anywhere by herself at night to drive. And so last night, I told her, drive safe, just floor it and ask questions later, so that she could just like not be terrified to drive. But I mean, what do you do if you're driving? It's totally dark outside and someone is in a black trench coat, slowly walking across a 5-lane highway. Like, not even sprinting. And you see headlights when it's dark outside. You see cars coming toward you. But the area that's in, it's like, I think that sometimes, I told her if that ever happens again, don't ever stop your car and get out, because I've read, as you probably have heard, so many stories of people that are set up that way. Like, out of nowhere, there's someone that just pops up, and it's a total setup, so that they'll have to get out of their car, and they'll get jacked or jumped or whatever. But then I also think about the people that are waiting for that insurance scam. So they're going to take a hit by a car and see if they can get any money out of you that way. But I don't know. Like, I don't think you're going to make it out of there. Someone slamming on, like, standing on their brakes to avoid hitting you. I'm pretty sure that you're not walking away from that. But I've never been hit by a car, so I don't know. So anybody can chime in on that one. I'm not sure. Does anybody have any requests for tomorrow? I can't decide if I'm going to do scary stories or a serial killer. I don't like to overdo it with the serial killers because I have to enjoy it. You know, when I share something with you guys, if it doesn't bring me joy, then I don't feel like I can share it. Oh, oh boy. I just found a really gross story, but I'll save that for another time. Is anybody still there? I'm not seeing anything in the chat, so I'm wondering if it's like not, if I'm not coming across anymore. Read my story. The twist is I won't send it to you until it's done. So no one can read it until it's done. So there you go. I'm going to save this one for another time or tomorrow, but I told my husband I've got a new idea for a criminal series that I'm going to start. Not sure when I'm going to start it. I also started posting on, if anybody hasn't checked out my schedule yet, I've been posting some of my older pastas on SoundCloud. And when you do a free account, you have like so many hundreds of minutes before then you have to like upgrade your account. So I'm going to see how that goes. But I mean, you can listen to all my stuff commercial free now anyway. Read your personal details. What's milk teeth? I'm going to write that down. Who else has read that, Immunity? Milk teeth. I'll look it up. I will look it up. How's that? Milk teeth. Is that like a true story or is that a pasta also? My throat's getting... Is anybody else got a sore throat from this? Going back to the chat. Forget Serial Killer Saturdays. We'll do a Rapist Rambles. No. But I am surprised at how many of those are tied together. Really. I'm going to guess that's a pasta. Know your meme. Chilling Tales for Dark Nights. I see that it's more than one person. Is it something I need? It looks like it's from Reddit, so you'd need permission from that. Unless someone says anyone can read this. Do you know anything about that? Chilling Tales did it. I can't remember the name. Alicia Pavlis was part of it. I don't know. I mean, do you think it needs someone else to read it? I don't like to try and outdo someone else. Yeah, there's nothing there. When I look it up, I don't see it. Milk teeth. I can't find the story. I just see the videos for it. I don't see the actual story. But anyway, I hate to try and like redo something. Actually, I usually try not to redo something, but if I really, really love a story, I'll read it. I don't care how many people have read it. If I love it, then I want to read it too. But I can't find the Immunity. I went to the Reddit link and the story's not even there anyway. So yeah. I don't know. Anytime. Oh, JRG. Love your channel. Been subscribed for about 6 months. Love your color scheme. I'm a huge fan of Type O Negative. Reminds me of them. What's Type O Negative? Is that a band? I'm gonna sound so stupid now for saying that probably. But as you all know, I don't care if I sound stupid. Obviously. Copy. I'm Googling it. I'm gonna Google it. I pronounce it googly instead of Google. It's more fancy. American Gothic metal band from Brooklyn, New York. Cool. Sweet. Just let me know. I'm going to wrap up this Immunity. Send me a Twitter DM. If anybody's following me on... If you guys aren't following me on Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat, I don't Snapchat as much as I go through my periods of time, but mainly interact with me on Twitter because that's where I'm randomly on there all the time. It's a ban and you're never stupid. Oh, I am, trust me. I am stupid all the time, and I'm fine with that. You know, I don't, let me see. I use this all the time, and this is my motto for life. A truly wise man realizes he has more to learn. Or more questions and answers. You can word that however you want to. But I'm okay with not being right all the time. I'm okay with being wrong. Because I'm a person that asks questions. I always want to be better than I was yesterday. Type of person. And I'm, what's that word? Self-deprecating? If I worded that correctly. I'm very aware of my flaws. And I learned to laugh at them because we're not here for very long, so I don't want to be depressed over the fact that I have this or that wrong with me. So, a truly wise man dies young. You've been miss out on so much crap, though, Harry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so unless anybody has recommendations for tomorrow, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm smart. Duchess, when are you feeding me? What? I love you because you're so real. I'm so real, girl. I'm still in my pajamas, and it's 2:13 in the afternoon here. And I still have draw rings. I'm gonna say draw rings like that. I have drawings on my arm because my niece is like, is she 5 or 6? She's 5, and she's like was drawing and stuff. So I wanted to be funny. I took her marker and drew on the back of my hand, and that inspired everyone getting little drawings on their arms. So I have like multiple drawings on my arms that I don't want to wash off because it's so cute. Pajama squats. Squats or pajama squad? Pajama squad. You know, and I might trademark this for myself, but I feel like there should be a whole line of clothing / pajamas that can double as both, even though we all know that most people do that anyway. But I think that there should be like a line of clothing that can be both. Because let's save some water, people. I mean, come on. Is everyone dying out now? That's all I have for you today, though. I just wanted to come on because I haven't been on all week, and I had a minute and thought I would recommend tacos for tomorrow. Tacos are for dinner tonight. That's my husband, everyone. Football Master 49 there. Tacos are for tonight. Turkey on Sunday, tacos tonight. Saturday is a question mark. Probably leftovers and fend for yourself day. Anyways, I'm going to wrap this up and try and figure out something cool for you guys for tomorrow. So hopefully you'll enjoy what I come up with for you for that. So until then, I'm going to say, for anyone who doesn't know, Harry Rods lives in a tree in my yard, apparently. I've never seen him, but I guess that's what good stalkers do. Adam said I was going to work in London a couple of days ago, and someone was going to work in pajamas. It was funny to see. See, but you could tell they were pajamas. Stacy, you must live far away. So good night. See, they should have wore pajamas that you couldn't tell were pajamas. What's another word for that? For kids, they have these matching outfits that in America, I don't know if that was like worldwide, and I don't know if they have it anymore, but it's called granimals, and it would be like a matchy top and bottom, so you would easily pick out these outfits. And I just thought there should be someone who comes up with adult granimals, because I am not good at outfitting. That is not a skill I have. Like if someone else could just pick out my clothes and put them in my closet and put Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on them, I would like be forever grateful for that. But there should be like adult granimals / pajamamals. Pajamamals. Does that make sense? Pajamamals. PJs / clothes. Scratch milk teeth. It is apparently property of Chilling Tales. Yeah, see, I don't really mess with anything. If I'm looking for stuff on like Creepypasta Wiki, I never mess with anything that says copyrighted unless I have permission from the author And I really stay away from Reddit. I just stay away from Reddit because it's just it's a bad time. But the good thing is this thought catalog. I love that, and I did a couple of really long stories from Jack Fulman and Joel Farelli that they liked, and then both of them said, read any of them that I want. So I'm excited about that. But their stories are long, so I have a couple of their stories banked, but they're going to be like 45-minute stories. And so when I look at that, like, ooh, I have another giant book that I have to narrate for acx.com for audiobooks, for Audibles. Not for Audibles, but for ACX. I'd love to work for Audibles. But anyways, I have this monster that I have to get done next. So all of my stories aren't going to be that long until that's done, because that's like number one priority above like staying alive and doing those things as an adult. I have to get that done because I'm under contract to finish that first, and then I can do like longer stories and stuff. So bonus, we are going to do another Christmas special this year. So if any narrators are listening and want to be part of that, let me know. But I will also, again, be on Twitter bugging everybody to be part of that too. So if anybody hasn't listened to my Christmas special from last year, we did like Duchess and Friends Massacre the Classics. That was one of the funnest videos besides the Halloween one to make. Of course, there's tons of them that are fun, but that's fun because I really wanted people to go outside of their box for Christmas, and they really did. So that was really entertaining to me. And I have a few songs banked to get creative with, and Black Eyed Blonde is doing something on her channel called the 12 Pains of Narrating for Christmas. So I hope you guys really keep an eye out for that. I have done both, Harry. I just finished book number 4, and you have to wait for the author. Excuse me, losing my voice. You have to wait for the author to go through it and listen to it, and then once they approve it, then it goes through ACX, and they have to make sure that it's the right time, that the sound meets their specifications. And I couldn't do any of that without Mother Creepypasta and her husband Mark, because they're truly the wizards that figured out the whole system, because it's a lot more complicated than you would think. But yes, I've already done that. And then ASMR, I have a few on here, and I started an ASMR channel, but there's only like 4 videos on there because it's a lot of extra work to have that and come up with something to say. Yes, I know you will, honey. Thank you. Karaoke. I haven't done karaoke. You know what's funny is I haven't done karaoke since a long time before I even met my husband. Like it's been a long time. It's way overdue. And honestly, I think we have a system at our house. Like he has an old, oh no, he doesn't have, he had a DVD player when we met that had like a karaoke option on it where it would like put the wording across the screen. So that is something that needs to happen, stat. But that would be fun. Do a song video. We will, the Christmas video will be all that, but yeah. And Harry, I grew up doing that. I did choir in school and church my entire life. Yeah. Yeah. And then it got to the point where I started hating it because it became something I didn't get to choose what I sang. I didn't get to choose when. And the burning point was I was forced to sing my graduation, and I really didn't want to. I really didn't want to because the school that I went to, I knew there would be so many people there. And there were. And I remember walking up on the stage. Don't remember singing the song. I couldn't even tell you what the song was. And then I remember people clapping and me walking off the stage. I literally blanked out the whole middle part. And I could not sing in public for 4 years after that. I couldn't even do it. No way. Oh, yeah, I was. But I really, Harry, I really thought that when I did that for Hale, I really thought she was going to turn that way down and put it in like as a background noise. I didn't know it was going to be so loud. I was so, like, I can't listen to that again because it's so embarrassing. And it's off key. But it's fun. It's fun. And I'm really looking forward to the Christmas one because it's fun to do. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'm hoping to get even more people involved. I don't want to get it too massive to where people won't watch the whole thing, because I think my Halloween video was so long that people didn't watch it, but that was fun to put together too. I think that might be it. Unless anybody has any recommendations for tomorrow's video, then I'm going to wrap this up right now and say thank you for listening and watching. Thanks for watching, whatever that means. And everybody have a good ominous Friday. I don't call it Black Friday because it doesn't look. It's actually sunny here, which is really strange. But I'm going to say ta-ta for now, or TTFN. Bye. Bye. Bye.